guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Nicole. I make videos about motherhood, lifestyle, beauty, and just finding simplicity in the everyday. And I would love if you subscribe and join me here. Today's video is going to be about a bunch of TMI postpartum things. Kind of, I guess, just about my experience and what I wish I would have known before I gave birth. And just kind of like what to expect. And I just want to give a disclaimer that I'm not a doctor and your experience might be completely different from mine. And I'm really just sharing what I experienced, maybe to help you out a little bit. But if you do have any questions about yourself, I would ask your doctor. But anyway, let's jump into it. So this video is going to be pretty TMI and it'll be really open and honest with everything that I experienced and stuff like that. So if you don't hear about bleeding and vaginas and things like that, then I would just leave now. It's fine. Bye. First of all, I gave birth almost 18 months ago now, so it's been a little while, but I have a bunch of notes of things that I want to share. And I was induced with my son, and I had a vaginal delivery, and I got an epidural. Okay, so when I was giving birth, I had an epidural, but it only worked on half of my body, so only my right side had the epidural on it, and the left side did not. So I could like completely move my left leg, but I could not move my right leg at all, just to give you an idea what was happening. Right after you give birth, you then like birth the placenta as well, and then nurses start like pushing on your stomach a lot, and that's really painful, but it's to help like your uterus start contracting back down, which is, I mean, ideally what you want to happen, so it's good, but like that is incredibly painful. And I want to say they do that for like a lot of the time you're in the hospital, so around like 24 hours they'll come in periodically and push on your stomach, and it kind of hurts. With the epidural, it took me, I think because the way my epidural went in and like it didn't really go to my left side and only to my right side, they did offer to like replace it, but I was like, no, let's just get this over with, it's fine, it'll be okay. And it was fine. It was like, I mean, it hurt, but not like that terribly much, I guess, because I could only feel half of it. But anyway, so with my epidural, like I still had like tingliness on the right side of my body for like 12 hours, I think, because like all the medicine went there. And I was walking, they made me walk to the bathroom like an hour after I gave birth, and then that was fine because they had to make sure you can like pee and stuff afterwards, just to make like when they take the catheter out and things like that. So everything was good there for me. And then I got wheeled up to like the postpartum recovery area, and we had like our room there. And after that, I was able to walk, but my leg was still tingly on the right side, and I didn't expect that. And also like with epidural, I still felt the spot where it went in my back for like months afterwards. I haven't felt it in a while, but I could still feel it. Like if I bent over a certain way, there's like kind of a little pain there, and that's not something I really expected to feel before. I didn't know that it would be painful in the area it went in. Okay, so afterwards, like, you know, babies just come out of your vagina and everything. Things can be like a little swollen, but for me, things were not swollen for that long. It was really like maybe a day, and then things were kind of looking like normal again. I had two small areas that I had stitches in though. And one thing I didn't realize is that you shouldn't really open your legs a lot after giving birth. So for me, I think it's like when I was bending down to get my son in and out of the car seat, like when we had taken him home from the hospital, I like bent down, knees apart, and I'm pretty sure my stitches popped then. So my stitches came out, and I had to go back to the doctor's office and just have them pull them out, and they said that it didn't really look like I needed to have them replaced, so I just didn't have them replaced. But I think not having the stitches also took my healing a little longer, but I just kept like ice on the area and like Tux pads, and it was fine. I didn't even use any like numbing sprays or anything like that. I didn't really find it necessary. But after I popped my stitches, I did sit on like a donut pillow for like a week, because it just was more comfortable. So there was like no extra pressure on the area. So that's one thing I didn't expect. I didn't know that my stitches were gonna like pop and come out, and I didn't know that you didn't necessarily need to get stitches, because you don't all the time. I mean, your doctor can explain that to you further, but yeah, my doctor said I didn't really need them, so I just went without them after they came out the first time. Okay, so on the topic of bleeding, you do bleed after you give birth, and it's, I want to say my bleeding lasted around 4 weeks, which was kind of less than I expected. I expected it to be like a full 6 weeks or longer, but it was around 4 weeks. And I want to say around the 2-week mark, I started having like new fresh blood coming out, which was a little concerning to me. I called my doctor's office about it, and they said that I could come in and they could check if it was still going on after like a day or two, just to make sure there was like no retained tissue or anything, or anything weird was happening. And it wasn't painful or anything. It was just like all of a sudden like bright red blood, and it kind of went away after like probably 12 hours. So it was fine. I don't think anything was wrong because I didn't end up having to go in and get an ultrasound or anything. But that is something that can happen if you are bleeding a lot more like suddenly. Something might have been left inside that needs to be taken out. So that's just something to be aware of. Another thing is that you cannot wipe for a while. So you have to use a peri bottle, which is just like, it's a little squirt bottle. There's a couple other brands I think that just sell nicer versions than of like what they give you at the hospital. So if you want to buy that, I think next time I probably will buy something like that, because I ended up having 2 from the hospital that I brought home and kept in each of my bathrooms. So like that's a tip, is to keep one in each bathroom that you might go to, so you're not having to like go get your bottle every time you go to the bathroom. But I just would fill it up with warm water every time I went to the bathroom, and then you just kind of like squirt it on, like down, to clean the area instead of wiping. Okay, another thing is that you will probably be kind of swollen after giving birth. Like that's pretty normal. For me, I had a lot of fluid in my body after having Pitocin from my induction, and it was a lot. I actually had to go to the emergency room for it because there was so much fluid that my body like didn't know what to do with it. So I was like having really swollen ankles, and I could not stop peeing in like liters. It was so much fluid. And they did treat me for postpartum preeclampsia, and so I had a magnesium drip for 24 hours, and that was not really fun at all. But they said I didn't have any other signs of preeclampsia, so it was likely that I was just retaining a ton of fluid and my body was having trouble getting rid of it all because there was so much. So that's something that I didn't expect that would happen, but it did. And so just know that if you are concerned about how much fluid you have, I would definitely call your doctor's office just to make sure that everything's okay with your blood pressure and things like that. But it is normal to still be swollen after giving birth. So another thing is the first postpartum poop. A lot of people are really scared of that, and for me, I have to say it was fine. I didn't have any issues with anything. And when I was pushing, I pushed my son out in like 20 minutes. It was like a couple practice pushes and then like 3 real pushes, and he was here. And so I feel like I was pushing pretty aggressively, but I didn't have any issues with like pooping postpartum or anything like that. And they do give you stool softeners in the hospital, and I took them in the hospital, but I stopped taking them when I came home. I didn't feel like it was necessary to be taking them anymore, so I wasn't really having any issues. Another thing is, you have so many hormones going through your body postpartum. It's actually shocking how intense things can feel. So for me, my hormones, like, they gave me horrific night sweats. And like, your baby's waking up like every 2 to 3 hours, so you're kind of only sleeping in small increments. But I would wake up like completely drenched in sweat, and I was so hot. And I didn't realize that was gonna happen to me. I like could not take my clothes off fast enough. I was just sweating, and that was not fun. And I think I had some BO for a while, which I guess like with all the sweating makes sense. But yeah, it was just kind of surprising. I didn't realize it was gonna happen. And also, when your milk comes in, you're probably gonna be leaking breast milk a lot everywhere. Like, it was just pouring out of me, and that's kind of weird, but at the same time, it was everywhere, and like there's no stopping it until your body's like sorting it out. So it's just something that happens. You can use like breast pads if you want. There's like reusable ones or disposable ones, like, but putting something in there can make you feel a lot better, not like you're just like a human milk machine. And also, your milk can come in like really aggressively. Like for me, it came in when I was 2.5-ish days postpartum, and I just woke up and I felt like there was a bowling ball on my chest. Like, it was so heavy, all of that milk. It just came in very aggressively and very intensely and pretty quickly, and I was just shocked. I didn't know what to do. Like, my boobs were just massive all of a sudden, and I was like, what? So I did have to like pump some milk off because it was like too swollen for my son to like latch on. So that was something I had to do. that I didn't realize that I might have to do. So yeah, just so you know. And I did meet with a lactation consultant, and if you want to have a video about like my breastfeeding journey and like things that I learned, I might make that anyway, just because I feel like I learned a lot of things along the way that might be helpful to someone. So yeah, that was shocking. I didn't know anything about breastfeeding or like your milk coming in or anything like that. And yeah, so it might be heavy, it might be painful, and it might not come in right away either. That's also something to keep in mind. Okay, and also along with your hormones, your sex drive is going to be fluctuating a lot. For me, it was very high in the first couple weeks postpartum. It decreased somewhat afterwards, but I know a lot of women say that they have like zero sex drive, and that's completely normal too. But for me, it was the complete opposite, and it was kind of difficult because you really can't do anything for 6 weeks and you're still healing, and of course you have a baby, and I mean your body is just all crazy. But my mind was like not with the body program. Like we were on 2 different pages. So that was kind of interesting to deal with, but again, you get through it and it's okay. So yeah, just know that you might have a high sex drive after giving birth. And the final thing that I want to mention is that you might have trouble sleeping. So for me, I had a lot of trouble sleeping the first probably like 2 weeks of my son's life, not just because he was waking up, you know, to be fed and stuff like that, but because I was so worried about him. I just wanted him to be okay, and like I wanted someone to be watching him while he was sleeping, but like I need to sleep too, so that doesn't really make sense. But yeah, I had a lot of trouble sleeping, and that wasn't really something I was expecting, and I was so tired. When I gave birth, I woke up Wednesday morning, so I was supposed to go in like Thursday night, but they called me Wednesday morning and they were like, hey, we actually need to schedule you for tonight instead of tomorrow, so can you come in tonight? But like I woke up at 7 a.m. that day, and they wanted me to come into the hospital at 10 p.m. to start my induction, so that's what I did. And I did not sleep at all that night because it's a very painful process when you have like physical and chemical induction together. And so I didn't sleep at all that night, and then I got an epidural 9-ish hours later, 10 hours later. I was at 6 centimeters, and then that kind of like stalled my labor for like 10 to 12 hours, and I only slept like 2 hours that whole day, and then I gave birth, and then I did not sleep at all the whole next day, and then I slept for 2 hours in the afternoon, and then finally the night after that I slept for 3 hours in a row. So yeah, I really didn't sleep that much, so I was super overtired as it was, and I was also like hyper aware of my son, and I just, you know, wanted to make sure he was okay. You have like this newborn baby and you're just worried about them. I don't know, at least I was. And yeah, so that was something I was not expecting, was to have trouble sleeping afterwards. But with all the postpartum things, it kind of takes time just to heal, and your body is changing and growing. And I really loved my postpartum period. I didn't really feel like the first like 6-week period, I didn't feel like bad about myself. I felt really great about myself. Like I gave birth to this like beautiful little human, and we were just, you know, enjoying him as a baby. And I mean, honestly, my body was kind of like the last thing on my mind, and I was really active through my whole pregnancy, and so I kind of wanted to get back into exercise. So I kind of started exercising lately around like 6-ish weeks, but I mean, again, I was just like doing what my body could do, and that was fine with me. So yeah, if you have any questions about my postpartum experiences or journey, just leave them in the comments below. And I hope that maybe this eased some fears for you, because there are things that happen in the postpartum period that you don't really expect, but it's overall, for me, it was a really good experience. I mean, not everything was fantastic. Like I popped my stitches, I had to have them like literally pulled out of my vagina, and they didn't numb me for putting the stitches in, so I felt them the whole time too. But I mean, that was really painful and not fantastic. But again, it's like, I don't know, it was over pretty quickly, and I don't think your postpartum period, you just need to have expectations that things aren't going to go the way you might think that they go, and just kind of rolling with the punches and the flow. And yeah, so I hope this was helpful, and thank you for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!